Sanchez.
Okay, so as you know, ladies, my name is Joanne Sanchez. This is for one of my courses, and I'm presenting to you how to unpack the TEKS. As you all know, we have TEKS, which are the standards in which we teach. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with, and it's supposed to go. Okay, so the agenda for today is to discuss our Campus Star results, and I'm going to show you some results over the past few years. Specifically for third grade, and then we're going to unpack some TEKS, or I'm going to show you how to unpack the TEKS, and then we're going to discuss strategies on how to help support the targeted TEKS that we're focusing on, okay? And so if you see here, over the past 3 years, 2017, 2018, and 2019, the results for our third grade reading meets or above. If you see there, the percentage went up slightly, and then kind of went down. So what we really want is, of course, for it to increase. And in that span of years, we really haven't shown too much of an increase. So that's what we're going to focus on two particular TEKS and how to unpack them. Okay, so on unpacking the TEKS, of course, TEKS stands for Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And when unpacking them, it's important to identify and define components of the TEKS. And then I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So analyze key terms in the TEKS to better understand what is to be taught within our lesson, and then break the TEKS down into smaller parts so that we better understand it. And then at the end of it, of course, we want to go back and examine how the TEKS are assessed. Of course, specifically right now in STAR. So for example, one of the TEKS that I decided to focus on was 3.9 DI. This TEK focuses on, as you can see, it's reading, knowledge, and skills. This is multiple genres, listening, speaking, reading. And so when you're talking about this is very broad. So to unpack the TEK, you want to make sure to focus on that specific TEK. So the way it has 9, we would look at 9, and then D, we're looking specifically at D, and then to be even more detailed, we would look at the central idea with supporting evidence. So that's the actual TEK that we would focus in on and try to get the students to understand it, or to better understand it and learn it, of course. So to be more specific, I kind of zoomed in on it so you could see the D is to recognize characteristics and structures of informational text, including, and then of course the main thing we focus on is central idea with supporting evidence. So students normally struggle with central idea or main idea and supporting evidence. So we're going to discuss some strategies after unpacking the TEKS. We're going to discuss some strategies that are recommended to help students better understand that and hopefully see some results in the percentages for the upcoming years. So when you unpack the TEKS, you want to identify the verbs within the TEKS and define them. So right here, it's talking about recognize. So they need to be able to recognize them when they see them, right? And explaining to your students what recognize, or what we mean by recognize, because I know there's several times when we're teaching and we have the habit of saying, you need to be able to identify, or you need to be able to recognize. And if they don't understand the terminology and we don't explain what that word really means, they're not understanding what it is that they have to do. So that's a big part of it, breaking down the verbs within the TEK to better understand it and explain it to them at their level, to their understanding, of course, which is why when we put our objectives up, right, we don't take the TEK and just actually put it exactly the way it is, right? We modify it and so that they can better understand it. So then this specifically one is central idea with supporting evidence. And then after that, you want to identify the best strategies to help them understand. So one of the strategies is, of course, an anchor chart. As you all know, they're very visual. So we have to make sure that we do anchor charts, pictures. It needs to be colorful. It needs to be attractive to them and engaging. If not, we lose them. So one of the anchor charts that I found that seems very easy or appears to be very easy for them to understand is like the ice cream cone, because of course they all love sweets and ice cream and goodies. And so the three details, and then our main idea, of course, explaining that the main idea is the cone is supporting everything, right? It's supporting the three ice cream cones. So anchor charts is definitely one, and pictures. And then some more teaching strategies are emphasize the titles that are missed by students. So I know several times, a lot of them, especially right now, that we're focusing on the passages for STAR. And of course, if y'all have any questions, feel free to like pause me in between. But I know when we're going through the passages and I ask them, okay, let's find the main idea or let's find the central idea, they overlook the title. They'll just kind of like, and they get nervous and they're not sure and they hesitate. So explaining to them and reminding them, okay, the title, that's a big part of what they're talking about. Is there more to it? Yes. But, by looking at the main idea, if of course, let's say it's a passage about polar bears. What is the main idea? What is it mostly about? Polar bears, right? And then of course you would find the supporting details. Reminding them or showing them and modeling how to look at the first and last sentences, especially right now with the passages. That's one of the strategies that I use, and I try to remind them, look at the first sentence, look at the last sentence. But I do also tell them, don't think that because I'm telling you that these might help you, that's all you're going to do. So it comes with, you have to explain to them, yes, these are strategies. That doesn't mean that just grab the first sentence and that's your main idea. You know what I mean? So we have to kind of explain that to them. Using keywords such as bold print, repeated words, or repeated concept. So if they see, for example, if it wasn't titled about in specific like polar bears, right? But they see within a passage, it's talking about repeatedly polar bears. They should be able to come up with the main idea is polar bears and, go on from there to find the supporting details. Use short videos to model identifying the central main idea. I know since you all work with the little ones, of course, they love the videos and those videos are engaging to them and it catches their attention. So short videos are definitely a good strategy to use. And then show examples of possible questions that they may come across in a passage or an assignment, or for example, like right now, my students STAR, modeling and showing them those questions. Important to compare the supporting details to the central and main idea and kind of explain it as the big idea is, and these are the little ideas. I know several of them do have difficulty because they'll grab one detail and they'll be like, Miss, but this is the main idea. It's a detail, right? It's a supporting detail, but it's not the main idea. So they struggle. They do struggle with that. And that goes even up until 4th, 5th grade. They struggle with that. So teaching central idea and supporting details. Another way to scaffold or support them is to provide graphic organizers. And you can use an informational organizer such as a flow chart, the spider map, and then you can differentiate the activity by even doing like a word bank and creating it so that it's hands-on for them. I know right now it's very difficult because we have a lot of students that are virtual, so they don't get that hands-on. But the students that we do have here, we can definitely create these little maps for them and allow them to manipulate it and move things around. Or you can cut the set story or passage and put it into different strips and have them kind of maneuver it. So all of those differentiating activities will help them better understand it. So the next TEK that I know, and it's one that my students also struggle with, is making inferences. So I know your smaller ones, if you start working with them right now and just explaining that they infer daily, like if I came in and I'm wearing a t-shirt that has, I don't know, like a racing shirt or whatever, that I did a run walk or something, just by seeing it, you could show them and say, oh, where do you think I would, where do you think I got this shirt? Or how did I get this shirt? Oh, well, you were in a race, or you did this. Or if they see you wearing sunglasses, and a cap, and, oh, they're going to infer that you're wearing sunglasses and a cap because you were outside and it's hot and the sun is out. And, so they don't realize that they're inferring already. So kind of explaining that to them is very helpful. So when we unpack this TEK, again, this is the actual full TEK, but it goes specifically to F, make inferences and use evidence to support understanding. So they really struggle with this one. And then I just kind of zoomed in on it for you. Again, make inferences to use evidence to support understanding. And then when we unpack it in more detail, what are they going to do? They need to make inferences and they need to use the evidence to support their understanding. And a lot of them will make an inference, but they struggle to find how can they support it. And my students will do that. I tell them, okay, well, you made that inference, but what made you think that? Or what is your understanding? Where did you get that? And they kind of stay and they're a little bit, you see those little eyes, like they just don't know. So just being able to support that understanding and reminding them, yes, you can make an inference, but there has to be a reason that you're making that inference. Okay, so something caused you to have that inference. Some of the teaching strategies that I found when researching were to begin with the class discussion about inferencing and explain what inferencing is. Like I said, a lot of them don't know what inferencing is. Creating an anchor chart and explaining to them making inferences comes from clues from within the text or the book, whatever it is that they're reading, and their schema, which is their prior knowledge, what they already know, what they've already learned in the past. And so they use that to make that inference as to what might happen or what is happening in the story that's not being specifically told within the text. And of course, like I said, create an anchor chart, explain how writers do not always completely explain things, kind of like reading between the lines, right? But if you tell them to read between the lines, they're going to be like, what? I don't know what that means. So just explaining that they do use their prior knowledge of what they know, whether they learned it last week, last month, last year, just prior knowledge, explaining that to them and how they use that with what is being, the information that they're receiving within the text, okay? Some more teaching strategies that I found for this is to show them how they're already exerted explaining inferences. So like I said, it gives the example, come in with a t-shirt. For example, if you were to come in with a Lakers jersey one day, they're going to infer that you're a Lakers fan, right? Or if you came in, Miss Sarmiento, with a Astros jersey, they're going to infer that you're an Astros fan, right? So just already explaining to them that they do this daily. They don't realize that they do it and that they know how to infer, and they use these inferencing skills, but by explaining it to them, hopefully that will improve as they practice it within, reading books, reading passages, articles, whatever it is. Use pictures and picture books, of course. I know one of the examples that it said is like basically just showing them a picture, showing them that picture, and it's a blank picture, and just there's no captions, right? But by looking at the picture, okay, so what do we think is happening? What inferences can we make based on this picture? For example, if it's a little girl with an umbrella, what inference can we make? Well, that she has an umbrella out, so it's probably raining or going to rain or just stopped raining, depending on if there's a puddle on the floor, all of those little, all of those details to help them understand. And of course, you model it with them and practice it first. And so this is a good strategy to get them to understand that. Short videos or short films. There are some short films which have no words. Like if you've ever seen those short Disney films that don't have any words, but just showing them those clips and telling them, okay, so what do we think's happening? Like, what's going to happen? Nobody said what was going to happen. So, and then just getting them to understand, okay, well, you inferred that what was happening or what was going to happen next, using those inferencing skills. Thought bubbles with text. I know I do that with my students as we're going through our passages and practicing for STAR. I do tell them, if you come across something that you're not sure, has you thinking, do a little bubble. It's something that you have to think about, and you're going to have to possibly make an inference, there. So they do that, and they do that within their questions as well. And then use games such as Clue or Headbands. Have y'all ever played those games? I've never played Clue. I know you kind of have to be like a detective or whatever, but the Headbands one I have, and I play with my little one, and he seems to like it. And, you hold up that headband or that picture, and then everybody else is kind of trying to, so you have to infer what picture it is that you have. Or even another similar one is, have y'all ever played the Ellen DeGeneres one, where you put it on your head and people have to like kind of give you clues, whatnot, and then you get a point and you flip it up or you flip it down if you pass or whatnot. So games like that, they're using that inferencing skills. They're playing a game. They don't even realize that they're doing it. So these are some strategies that were highly recommended. So then unpacking the TEKS, like some of the reminders, like I said, I know with y'all, because Sarmiento, you're kinder, right? So I know the TEKS, it's very lengthy, right? So you have to go specifically and unpack it. And so when you're doing that, remember to identify and define the components of each TEKS. So what specifically should they be doing? What is it focus? What are we focusing on specifically for the lesson? Analyze the key terms in the TEKS to better understand it. Of course, that comes aside from like what we're doing or how we did it is and I'm talking about third grade, I'm sorry. We had to go and look at the TEKS that our students were struggling with. And so on those TEKS, after looking at them to better get an understanding, we have to kind of break them down and unpack them to see, okay, we've already taught this. They're still struggling with it. How can we adjust our strategies, teaching strategies, so that they can better understand it? Analyzing the key terms in the TEKS will help us better understand, okay, maybe this didn't work. This method that I used did not work, but I can try a different strategy and see what helps this group, because every group of kids or every group of students is different. So what worked for one class is not always going to work for another. Break the TEKS down into smaller parts, of course, so that we can better see what it is that we're supposed to be focusing on. And then, of course, after they may be assessed or we've done a quiz or an assessment, you examine how often the TEKS are assessed. And I have a typo there, but you examine how the TEKS are assessed, and then how often. For example, I know some of our questions, we had one TEK that was maybe in their STAR, practice STAR, like two questions. And then we had another TEK where there were like 5 questions. So we're going to focus on the TEK that there were 5 questions and they're struggling versus the one that had 2. So all of these things are kind of things to keep in mind when you're unpacking your TEKS and you're looking at the data. And then, of course, those are my references for everything. And then I don't know if y'all have any questions. No questions.
No, everything was explained well. I don't know what to say.
No questions. Okay.
No, it really helped,
Well,
because
so much for
I'm a first year teacher, so it did help a little bit more. Because
like to better understand, right? Because I know when they were like, oh, unpack the TEKS, and I'm like, do what? I do what? And so,
yes,
like,
I know,
but after you practice it and you do it, you're like, oh, okay, now I see what I'm doing. Now I can understand. Okay, now I'm gonna try. And not even only that, because maybe I've already unpacked it, right? Sorry, I'm gonna stop presenting this, but maybe I've already unpacked it, but after I've unpacked it, now I know what I can go and specifically focus on and what strategies I want to find to try to get them to learn in specific, like central idea, main idea, and supporting details and inferencing. And I know, like I said, your little ones, that the way your TEKS are, they're very different. But like I said, if you all even started as early as now, like just kind of bringing it to their attention, they're gonna be like, oh wow, like I didn't realize I do that. I didn't realize I can, use inferencing skills already at that grade level. So
And
yeah.
to be honest, well, you know how I was in pre-K and it's very different from kinder. In the testing, there's even inferences, right, Miss Limon? I'm like, oh my God, these little ones already are doing inference. I'm like, oh. And that was one of the questions. Most of them missed it in the 6 weeks test.
Um,
Only like 3 out of the 18, because all of them tested, only 3 got it right. So now that you're saying, it's like, okay, now let me go back and see how.
yeah, and they struggle with it. I know, well, because before I was doing second grade, remember, and so I was like, okay, well, they're already inferencing here, but I didn't realize, like you said, now, okay, they have it in kinder. So I mean, starting them that young, and they're expected to, of course, be at that meets or above, standard in STAR. A lot of them don't. Like I said, that's a TEK that a lot of them struggle with. So starting right now and just kind of trying to get them to get it can you imagine by the time they get to third grade and start testing, it should be a lot easier for them. But like I said, that's one of the strategies that I really liked, just kind of bringing to their attention, like, you do this already daily, like you just don't realize you do it. And then kind of sharing those ideas with them and then practicing it with them. One of the other strategies that it recommended was like even having a partner teacher come in and just have, like, kind of whisper something into her ear. And what was it? Yes. So you whisper something to the teacher's ear, and kind of like with your body language, okay, so what do you think? What can you infer? What do you think our conversation was? Like, why was I whispering? And start asking them those questions, and they're gonna start thinking, and just kind of making it fun and engaging for them, really. And I know that it's difficult for us right now, especially being virtual, that we don't have them here with us. I mean, we have some, but not all of them. So, but yeah, hopefully this helped a little
Yes,
bit.
it did. It did.
All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies. So much. Thank you for your help. Y'all have a good day, okay?
Okay, thank you, and hope